Since human beings exist, they are afraid of death. Since human beings exist, they are dreaming of immortality. The time is ripe to overcome this fear and to realize this dream. Do you want, together with us, conquer death? We are showing you how you can, step by step, achieve immortality. Immortal man, will that not be worthy of the future? Don't think that we are telling you fairy tales. The first immortals are already living among us. New men who are everlasting, inviolable, invincible, fearless, and completely free, because nobody and nothing can do them any harm. They resemble the gods because they live eternally. They will continue to exist when this earth has long fallen to pieces. Not only the universe, also the existence of man is infinite. The immortal man walks a path without end. He has at his disposal not just one single life, but all eternity. There are no limits to his growth. He uses the gigantic potential of his imperishable spiritual being to become ever greater, to climb ever higher levels, far beyond today's humanity. The new immortal is far superior to the old mortal man. As an immortal, you can reach for the stars. A new life in the spirit of immortality is the way out of the misery of the time, the foundation upon which we can completely transform ourselves and human society as a whole. The eternal existence of man is the starting point from where we can get rid of all our outdated thinking, of the whole old world, as well as of ignorance, imperfection, distress, and suffering. Already Goethe taught, man should believe in immortality. He has a right to do so. It is according to his nature. Let me explain with an example what we are talking about. Millions of years ago, one of our ancestors left the animal kingdom. He rose up onto two legs. He climbed a new stage of evolution. He transformed from a being with 4 legs into a being with 2 legs. What an heroic deed, a huge leap in the development of life, a gigantic progress for all mankind. Upright walk, what an achievement, what a new dignity. It opened up immeasurable possibilities to the human race. Just imagine how this higher being distinguished itself from the 4-legged creatures around him. How it wandered through the savannah liberated, detached from the earth, proud, with head erect, looking into far distance, to the future, to the heights, to the light. In fact, a god for all those wild hordes around him who were still crawling on all fours. Today, we are standing on the threshold to a leap just as big. The time has come for humanity to gain immortality. Thereby, we shall be climbing the next step of evolution, on which new, fantastic possibilities are awaiting us. Evolution is advancing every day. We humans must keep pace with it. We must continue to develop further. We ourselves have to grow, not just our technical devices. Otherwise, we will be eliminated one day as unsuitable, as before us, the dinosaurs. Unlike the animals, we are called upon to consciously participate in our own evolution. We have to climb the next level on our own. No one else will lift us up there. Let us now start our course. We take you by the hand and walk together with you the 7 steps that lead to immortality. Know thyself. This is what the wise men of the past taught. What do we find when we follow this good advice and examine ourselves? We encounter a knowledge that is both ancient and universal. Man consists not only of the visible material body, he also has an invisible spiritual being called by religion the soul. All cultures know the death of the body is by no means the end of human existence. The soul continues to live in a spiritual world that is called heaven or hell, paradise, Gehenna, Hades, Olympus, Orcus, underworld, Valhalla, or the like. The wisdom of all times teaches the immortality of the higher nature of man. No one endowed with insight ever believed that our existence was limited to one single earthly life. People of all times, Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, Germans, Africans, Indians, Chinese, American Indians, Incas, and Mayas. The religions of all times, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus and Buddhists, even the so-called primitive cults. They all know of the survival of an aspect of man on a higher level after the death of the body. This applies to you too. Do you remember the last sentence of the Apostles' Creed? I believe in life everlasting. Since Plato's works, The Republic and Phaedon on the immortality of the soul, this knowledge is one of the foundations of the Western world view. The religions of this world, so estranged from each other as they are, nevertheless have one common basis. This is not the belief in God. The gods of men are very different. The common basis of all confessions is the knowledge of the immortality of the soul, the promise of everlasting life. On this point, we can distinguish believers from non-believers. A faithful Christian, Jew, Buddhist, Hindu or Muslim cannot be a mortal. All, really all, religions agree on 4 essential points. One aspect of man survives death on a different, non-material level. It is an individual being, distinctly different from others of its kind, that passes over to the other world. It has acquired certain personal merits. It has burdened itself with certain personal guilt. These properties were accumulated during its stay on earth. One can and must provide for the future existence, for example by laying objects into the grave or by a virtuous earthly life. The quality of the existence in the world beyond is decisively determined by the preparations taken in the material sphere. The being that goes over leaves the body behind, continues to live without it, does not need it there any longer. It is an invisible, non-material, spiritual creature. If the people of all times possess this knowledge, then we too can use it today as a secure foundation for our experiment immortality. It is of the utmost importance that you do not blindly believe what I am telling you here. It is of no use to reiterate dogmas or formulas such as I believe in life everlasting. You have to sense yourself that you have a soul as well as a body. Let us now see how you can make such an experience. You know the movie Matrix, this modern version of Plato's allegory of the cave. A brilliant film. It shows humanity as enslaved in a prison of wrong conceptions. The bars are inside our own heads. We, real human beings of today's time, are no better off. Do you know the greatest obstacle to the further ascent of humanity, to the overcoming of the omnipresent ignorance, to the fight against need and suffering, the limitation of our thinking to the material, the visible? People refuse to recognize the invisible, not touchable, spiritual aspect of reality. They limit themselves to the physical world, which is, however, only one half of reality. By ignoring the other half, you are banishing yourself into an illusionary world, a matrix. You must act wrongly. You cannot advance if you refuse to take into account the more important part of reality. We want to show you here the other, the higher, the spiritual side of reality, hoping that you will not close your eyes before that what exists. Of course, we are unable and unwilling to free anyone by force from the prison of his illusions. All we can do is to point with the finger at something. The watching you have to do yourself. The expansion of consciousness beyond the limits of the material sphere should preferably begin with ourselves. We should be able to recognize the essence of our own being more easily than anything else. When you recognize yourself, you recognize the whole world. When you sense the divine within your own inner being, you will also find the divine in the surrounding outside world. The writer Audun von Horvath says, "In principle, I am quite different, but I rarely manage actually to live like that." This is a truth everyone knows. Each of you feels. There is something higher hidden within you, a being so childlike pure, so priestly, so royal, so divine, with a power that can tear out trees and remove mountains. You know the comic Superman, the small, inconspicuous Clark Kent, who turns, when required, into a mighty hero and saves the world from all sorts of catastrophes. You feel yourself. Within you, too, there is hidden such a giant. Within you, too, there slumbers a potential of immense forces, which allows you to carry out the heroic deeds of which you are dreaming. This comic is so successful only because it strikes a chord within all of us, because it touches at something that lies deeply within us. Or think of Cinderella, indeed an archetype of mankind. Don't you too sometimes feel completely out of place in your life situation, like a neglected stepchild whose true destiny it is to be a queen? It is of the utmost importance that you do not dismiss this feeling as an illusion, but take it seriously. The deep longing to realize your higher potential indicates the right way. Every now and then you succeed in expressing your higher nature. Then a deep joy fills you because you have lived the great, the eternal, the divine of your being, and overcome the animal part of yourself. You are much greater than you think and than you realize in everyday life. Of course, we cannot prove the existence of the soul with the methods of classical physics or chemistry. Nevertheless, we are acting perfectly scientifically when we now proceed to investigate into the higher reality by the means of observation and experience. We are no spinners, no mystics, and no occultists. We are scientists. All we are doing, no more, but no less either, is to look without prejudice and to perceive that what exists. For this, we have to add the knowledge of the heart to the traditional methods of the natural sciences. Saint-Exupéry says in The Little Prince, "One sees clearly only with the heart. What is essential is invisible to the eye." Allow this sentence to melt on your tongue. Do you grasp its immense importance? The essential, that what really counts in your life, is not visible and not touchable, and therefore can be recognized not by the intellect, but by the heart alone. This is true for spiritual realities, such as love, fidelity, and beauty, or for the distinction between good and bad, and for the soul. Let us therefore open our hearts and take a look at some everyday situations in which you feel your innermost and noblest with a certainty beyond all reason. When you listen to the music of the great masters, don't you feel the existence of something greater within you? Of something bright, which awards courage to you? Of something in its essence invulnerable, which gives you the strength to master even the worst misfortune with a smile? Don't you recognize with pride, with fury, and with shame that there lives within you a being so innocent, so childlike and pure, to which you lend, unfortunately, only too seldom expression, and whose voice you tend to suppress under the apparent constrictions of your material existence? Above all, Mozart shows us over and over again the marvelous picture of a better world, of a higher sphere, the homeland of our soul. His music teaches us that in every human being there is buried an angel who waits to be awakened. Don't you feel, when leaving the concert hall, he who is filled with the superior spirit, which speaks from a symphony of Beethoven or Bruckner, could overcome triumphantly all the nuisances of earthly life? There comes to light a true power that lies within you. Music makes us really greater. We enter the music hall depressed from the load of everyday life. We leave it elevated and with head erect in the newly animated consciousness of our majesty and dignity. Music makes us experience our true self, the royal priestly creature which we should in reality be, which is so much greater than our miserable material existence. Music appeals to the divine core within us. It is not without reason that the concert halls are better filled than the churches. Here you can actually experience a reality about which the priests can only make words. All true works of art, the great treasures of literature, painting and sculpture, lend expression to the spiritual aspect of reality, which only the heart can grasp. In nature, don't you feel your kinship with every flower, every tree, the stars, the sea, the clouds, with every stone, and even with the most tiny grain of sand? What is this miraculous feeling based on? On the fact that not only you yourself are animated by a soul, but the whole creation as well. On the fact that the same divine spirit dwells as within you, so in all other matter. The old gnarled oak is your little brother, the sparkling crystal your little sister. Both have souls, exactly like yours, only smaller, not so highly developed ones. What happens when you love? Your higher self touches the related angel-like being which is hidden behind the insignificant physical facade of the beloved. By true love, souls are being attracted towards each other, not bodies. Maybe for only one tiny bright moment you perceive something miraculous, something that the others do not see, because it is hidden within your beloved, the eternal, the divine core. Even those of you who do not regard themselves as esoterics know every human being has his own particular aura. You are able to capture the essence of another man instantly by intuition in the moment when he enters a room. It is not the body that radiates. What you sense are the emanations of the soul. Of course, the body as well has a certain radiation, but limited to the physical side. Big or small, thick or thin, strong or weak, skillful or awkward. The spiritual nature radiates a much stronger emanation. You are perfectly aware at the very first moment whether you have to do with a small or a great soul, with an important or an insignificant, a wise or an ignorant, a positive or a negative, a cheerful or a downcast, a friendly or a hostile person. All these and many others are characteristics not of the body, but of the soul. In prayer and meditation, the worldly life of the body takes a break. Now your soul awakens to its life. Now it can develop. It also has its needs. Your soul receives from the communion with the higher spheres consolation, strength, and knowledge. These are the noblest moments when the divine within you communicates with the divine in higher spheres in a purely spiritual way. Your higher self, through your heart, speaks to you as conscience. It advises you to observe the laws of the spiritual world and to apply ethical standards to your actions. Your body has no conscience. It knows the rules of the physical world only. struggle for survival and pleasure. You all know that the voice of your spiritual being sometimes quarrels with the wishes of your lower self linked to the body. This is so exactly because your soul is a creature different from your body. Think of the death of a beloved person. We all harbor, after all, a secret, timid, blessed confidence that his spirit lives on, that he has passed over into a better world where he continues his work, that one day we shall meet him again if we are really related. That means if our souls belong to each other spiritually. We refuse to imagine. It simply cannot be. It would be absurd, a gigantic cosmic wastefulness, if a powerful spirit, such as Goethe's, which still has so much to discover, to say and to accomplish, were to be completely extinguished. The conviction of our continuity I derive from the concept of activity. For if I continue to work restlessly until my end, nature is obliged to allocate to me another form of existence, if the present form is unable to endure my spirit any longer. This feeling of the heart shows the right way. We not only hope, we know at the bottom of our hearts, with a certainty beyond all reason, that those are right who paint the miraculous picture of an everlasting life. Simple, unspoiled minds, not misled by the intellect, sense this truth very well. Even the natural scientists begin to concern themselves with that part of man which is different from the body. They question patients who have looked down from the ceiling of a room and watched the doctor reviving their body. Such so-called extra-physical experiences occur, for example, with strokes, drug taking, epileptic attacks, or near death. They are recently being investigated into with scientific methods. The patients report of a bright world, so beautiful that they had no desire to return to Earth at all. Not the body has entered this world. It lay meanwhile on the operating table, but the soul. Your soul is not of this world. Material things do not satisfy it. It longs for something higher, for spiritual values. It is enthusiastic about ideals such as truth, justice, beauty, and love. Your spiritual being actually suffers from every untruthfulness, injustice, ugliness, or unkindness, even if it does not concern you yourself at all, but others. What has an animal with its hardly developed soul? What has the purely physical side of your being to do with justice? Nothing. Like cattle, it is only concerned with survival, reproduction, and satisfaction of its desires, with devouring and being devoured, with the law of the stronger which rules in the jungle. Why did we overcome in the course of evolution this primitive state? Because we followed our higher nature. We have established by an immense struggle the rule of a spiritual principle, justice, over brute force and superior material means. This proves there lives something higher within us, which belongs not to the physical, but to the spiritual world. The greatest longing of man is to bring to bear this divine aspect of his nature. The greatest satisfaction fills us when we succeed in this, not as one tries to make us believe when we satisfy our animal needs. Your soul actually remembers the ideal world from where it comes, paradise, from which you were expelled in order to incarnate on the material plane. Your soul longs to return to these heavenly conditions. Your soul strives to introduce down here on earth the overwhelming beauty of the supermundane order which it has itself experienced before birth. Hence, the eternal dream of the establishment of the kingdom of God on earth. These examples should be sufficient for the moment. Do you now grasp a little bit more of the infinite reality? Has your consciousness been widened by a few millimeters? Do you now realize your soul is no less real than your body? You would not deny the realities of thoughts, feelings, X-rays, or other energies, just because you are unable to touch them. He who denies his higher nature, the divine within himself, falls back to the level of the animals who have not yet developed a consciousness of the spiritual part of their being. One tries to rob you of the best you own. It really is a victory of the devil and a spiritual catastrophe that modern man finds no way, under the influence of enlightenment, to reconcile the truth of science or reason with the truth of religion or the heart. If we rely on the intellect alone, if we deny every spiritual reality, then we fall back into barbarity, become spiritless robots, and create a cold, dead world in which to live is a torture. Let us sum up. The first step towards immortality is I recognize my soul.